Hey there, my name is Michelle Brogan, and welcome to the Under the Influence podcast. I'm so thankful you are joining this journey with me as we hear real stories of how to make real impact. I pray as you listen to this that you will be pushed into kingdom momentum to fulfill all that God has called you to do. Thank you for taking the journey with me. All right, guys, welcome to today's podcast. I am excited about my new friend, Ty Headlee, here with us on Under the Influence podcast. And if you have listened to anything before, you know, this is only our third episode going into this. And so I hope you watched how we just set this up so you could hear more about my heart, just even my testimony and where God's brought me. But this last episode that I did about influence, I mean, to me, influence is really everything. You know, Jesus is our greatest influence. We're still talking about him 2,000 years later. We're still listening to his stories, feeling the impact of what he said, what he did for us. So when I came up with Under the Influence, it really was too, for me, like a double-edged sword, like you've talked about being under the influence of something. And I know for me, I was under the influence of all the wrong things until I found the Lord Jesus, and then being intoxicated by him, his word, his truths, and walking that out. And so I am so thrilled today to talk to Ty, because I do think we're going to talk about some really amazing things about influence. He is an influencer himself in the kingdom. And so with that, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We're almost to 2026. So you're going to hear this before we're turning into 2026. But I believe for you, especially too, 2026 is going to be a year of impact because of the influence that God has given you. So
thank you. No, first of all, I'm honored. Thank you for allowing me into your space, and to be able to speak to those who are called to your voice is an honor and a privilege. So thank you. And I'm excited. You actually said so much in your intro that I'm like, oh, my mind is already running about how we could talk about what it looks like to be under the influence and going from one extreme to the other, and how ultimately our influence is from God for impact.
Right.
If we have influence just for influence sake, then what's the point?
Right,
There's
right,
a lot
right.
of people, you know, Michelle, right now that have influence, but they're not impacting people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really important that we make that distinction up front. And I love that you started with that, because if we have influence, if we have followers, if we have viral videos and whatever the case may be, but we're not truly impacting people,
Right.
then what's the point?
Right.
It's fly by night. You know, you can get 1 million views on a video, everybody could know your name, but then if there's no substance, if there's nothing that you're building on, it's kind of like the scripture, you know, when I think it's the Apostle Paul is talking about what you build your house with, the different types of materials. Some will build with clay and straw, and some will build with precious metals like gold and silver. And then the fire comes and it tests you.
Right.
And that's what I think we're running into when we talk about influence right now, is we've got so many people who have built things. And I can say this because, and you probably can too, being on the other side of it now, I built my life one way, and I watched the fires consume everything that could not go with me to where God was taking me.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people are. So I think this podcast is so critical and so necessary, because you're going to help people to see that you can build your life in such a way, you can build your influence on the rock. And if you build on that, no matter what comes, come hell, come high water, hopefully I can say that. But, you know, if there's a shaking, you won't be shaken.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And I think it's so interesting, you know, just setting it up already. Number one, you're a communicator, you're a strategist, you're a creative. But, you know, when I felt like I was doing the podcast, and we met not too long ago, about a week ago, talking about influence. And I think it's going to be a really great conversation and a healthy conversation, because anybody that's known me or heard me speak and publicly or anything, I have a funny view sometimes on influence when it comes to social media. Because if you even look at where I am right now in social media, you know, that was a hard thing for me to even get a social media. I only got it to stock my children. And so when I got it, I was like, okay, you know, I'm out there doing what God's called me to do. And I've done so much. You know, I didn't grow up with the phone. I didn't grow up with social media. So everything that I did, you know, was in the closet with Jesus, like just getting those commandments and saying yes to him and going out and doing it. And it didn't document anything. And we had we had cameras this big on our shoulders back when we were doing stuff. So even trying to find
broadcast
footage,
cameras,
right?
Big old Sony.
Right. So I feel like there's so much too, where here I am, you know, at 51 years old, watching over the years, social media or YouTubing and all of these things, and the word influencing coming up. And, and I wanted my life to make an impact, and I wanted to be someone that influenced. But all of a sudden this word influencer came in, and I'm watching videos of monkeys taking, baths with rubber duckies, and a lady that has 26 dolls that feeds them for breakfast, and she's an influencer. These things we're following, and these people are called influencers. And I'm like, wait a minute. That goes against everything I knew about what true influence was. But that's where I think, even in our conversation that we had, that people need to know, especially even at my age, where we're like fighting this thing, going, okay, God, we want to make your name famous, but we want the purity of that and what that looks like, and how to keep things where we can have our life be watched, but no, there's also private moments that were never meant to be watched. But I felt like you were a great person to bring on, because I do believe you've got the pulse of what God is doing in the world of influence, that you can have the followers, you can have, the platform, but also what it takes to have that, to keep that, just like you said. And also to speak to people like me that are still fighting it. And, my kids were so funny once they looked at me. They're like, you should have so many more followers than you do. They were just like, why is this like that? And it made me laugh, because I'm like, well, that's not what I'm after. I want to know when I get to the kingdom and I turn around, that there's a line of people lined up, and they weren't like, I pushed a button. I actually listened to what you said, and it changed my life. And so, but I also know we're in it, I don't feel like we follow the trend. We're trendsetters, but also I just want you to speak to that. And that's why too, I think it was going to be a really healthy conversation, because I got stuff to learn today too with this, and things that I walked away from with our conversation that really made me think about how I want to do the next 5 to 10 years, how to get, that's the goal, is souls. So how we're doing that, and how we're doing it right, and how we're doing it true. And so I want you to speak to that, even some of the things that I said of, as we're even sitting here, there's just, there's the older and the younger coming together, and but the maturity is there, and the things that you've seen, and the part of ministry you've been a part of, I think is really key to speak into this.
For sure. Well, I think, Michelle, it's a biblical concept, and there's a I don't know if it's in the Proverbs, but it essentially speaks to this idea that the wisdom of the old man would turn to the strength of the young man.
Right.
And when they come together, there's something powerful that happens. And I believe that we're standing in a time where, if we forsake the generations that came before us, we'll be missing things.
Right.
And the same can be true for the generations that have already gone ahead of us. If they forsake the strength or the passion of the young person, they're going to miss out on something. But I think that God is going to redeem this influencer culture. He's going to redeem things. That's what he does. That's why I don't jump into this whole, it's demonizing it and trying to write it off. No, what can God do with it? He's in the business of redemption. So I see it as, I need you and you need me. And it's the same thing for generations, for the person who's listening, that maybe you're in your 50s, maybe you're in your 60s, or maybe you're in your 40s and you're kind of in the middle. We need each other. You've got young people in your life, and they have a perspective of the world that is different than yours. But you also have the wisdom. So it's finding the balance. I think when we think about influence and we think about creating content and this whole thing, if we just see it as a silly internet thing, I think we're missing it. I think we're missing what it is, because realistically, the currency of the modern day is content. Content is your currency now. So when you think about being a business owner, you could be in your 50s, but there could be somebody in the same industry that's younger than you that knows how to work the content, and they're visible. People are going to go to the person that they see.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's marketing. Like, they're going to go to the person that they see, and that person will become an authority in the space. It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 50 years if you're not visible.
Right.
If you're not visible, then you almost, in this day and age, you will become non-existent. And it's sad, but we're seeing it. So I think that there's a strategy in it that God has given to young men and young women, if they're humble enough, and to our more seasoned saints, if they're humble enough. You see, there's this convergence of humility that I think both need, because there's going to be things that from being around the block that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But there's going to be things that I know from being around my block that you might not know. And if we can come together, and this is for every person that's listening, wherever you're at on the spectrum, if you're young, if you're more seasoned, wherever you're at, I think it's important that we don't forsake what each other carries. You see what I'm saying? I think we each carry something unique and valuable and distinct. And if we can learn to honor that, I think we can win. Like, I think that's when the kingdom can be on full display. Because it's not only, yes, it's every nation, tribe, and tongue, but it's also all ages, stages, phases. You know what I'm saying?
Right. How do we, though, keep it? So with that, and yes, I was thinking about Jesus, everything I got to go to is like, okay, I can watch other people and I can
Yep.
watch other platforms. I can watch other testimonies, but he's going to be my ultimate go back to. And so when I'm, even as I'm reading this morning, it's content. It's just, it's written. It is written. And so we're going off the stories. We're going off of the healings. We're going off the casting out demons, raising the dead. I mean, thank God someone was there writing those things. And so what I want you to speak into too, and things I've been thinking about is going back to the purity issue of it, is what are we seeing with this generation? Like when I start getting heavy on content in my mind, I start thinking content. I start I want to not make it about like what I'm doing. I want it to be organic and I want it to be my conversation with him. So what is it that you're seeing in Christian content? Let's go to kingdom content. That is something that you've watched that you're like, I don't love where that's going trend wise. And some things that you're like, I've seen this is what's working. And you work with a lot of youth. I feel like I've been doing youth ministry for the last 25 years. And everybody's like, are you getting some people I just watch that are like, I've been doing youth ministry at church and I got promoted and I'm thinking promoted. Like for me, it's what are we going to do in 15 years if somebody wasn't there sticking consistently with the youth? So you're seeing that too. And I'm seeing how they're how they're thinking, even my own kids and the things we're sending back and forth to each other on Instagram. I don't even have a TikTok. And so those things is what you're seeing, like I said, the trend going one way that maybe is like, I wish we weren't doing that in the kingdom, and things that you're seeing being very effective.
For sure. I think that the biggest mistake we can make, especially as believers, is to be inauthentic. And so what I mean by that, and I don't want to throw people under the bus. I don't want to, because I think that people have genuine intent. Sometimes there is, motive mixed in there. But I think one of the things that comes to mind is when I see stuff that you clearly know is forced. Like you clearly know that if you're in your devotional time and you stick the camera up.
Right.
Are you really in your devotional time? And like people make it this whole taboo thing. And I get the concept. But I think where we do a disservice, not only to ourselves, but honestly, to the people who are on the receiving end, is if we make it performative. You see what I'm saying? So if you make it about, I'm going to do this because it's going to get views, I think you're missing it. But if maybe it's teaching somebody. You see, so I always look at, okay, the intent is you want to show that you have this discipline in your life. You want to show that you are steady and consistent at every morning. You get up, you have your cup of coffee, you sit there with your devotional and you do it. And it's part of your actual life. Okay, that's fine. Then if you're going to post it, let's educate people. Let's show people why I do this. What's the benefit of it? How's it actually going to help me in my life? Not just look at me with my cute cup and my Bible verse. Tell me why it's actually impactful. Show me what it is that it is. And also I think we need to do a little bit better. And I can say this about myself too. I think one of the things that I'm constantly trying to do better is just be myself, like in front of the camera. Like, if I'm going to put myself out there, like there's a lot of things that make me who I am. I try to be open with my struggles. I try to be open with the things that I'm going through. For example, and this is something that I had to navigate. I think you have to know times and seasons, not just for what's happening around you, but also for yourself.
Right.
So if you're in a season where you're healing and you're walking through something and it's hard, maybe that's not the season to pull out the camera and film yourself. Maybe that's the season to be present and to allow yourself to heal and to really seek God. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and I'm trying to just bring this thought together, but there's a balance that I think we need to have. And what I see often that I wish would be a bit different. And maybe this is the moment. Maybe somebody will hear this clip and they'll say, oh, you know what? I do need to really sit back and ask myself, is this genuine? Is this honest? Is this actually going to help somebody? And if that's the answer, if you can answer that honestly and be like, yeah, I will, then do it. You know what I mean? Right. I think that's really it, is if we are, because we're talking about, I think for the majority of people that are listening, and I can't assume that everybody's a believer, but let's just say that they are. Let's say that they're a kingdom-minded person and they want to really truly be impactful, then I think every single thing you do, you should ask yourself, is this encouraging? This is my personal thing. Is this encouraging to somebody? Is this going to equip somebody? Is this going to empower somebody? And then I have two bonus ones, which is, and they're all E's, which is educate which is another one I think is really important, and then entertain. Because sometimes it might need to be a laugh. Sometimes I'm going to post something, you've seen it.
I see it.
I'm going to post
He's
something
crazy.
like a ridiculous video that like, no one's, wasn't the most inspirational thing, but it was fun.
Right.
And it showed my humanity.
Right.
And I think that that's what I mean by being genuine and authentic is we're humans. We're human beings. Emphasis on beings, being. Right. Be the content. Don't just try to force it and do it because you saw your friend do it or do it because you saw that person go viral. Do it because it's true to you. And I believe if you can do that, the right people who are connected to your voice, to your sound, to who you are, will be attracted to you. Right. They'll literally come to you. You see what I mean?
Right. Yes, and that's where, remember I told you when I met you, I was like, you're my new favorite follow, because there's just funny stuff, and I love to laugh. And I think about, here we're talking about social media, but go back to when I said, like, there was no social media. There was still that temptation, and we see it in the Bible with the Pharisees, to be seen, to be, like, even when they would talk about fasting, like, they would go paint their faces. It's like, we want to do something spiritual to be seen to do it. They were always trying to catch attention. And so I think that battle that I even feel like I would have to fight, or, that's where I've got to, like, lay low so he can be lifted high, and if he wants to use content to do it. But also that temptation was there even before social media. We're talking about setting up cameras, but like, I just think about being in church my whole life and things that, I had to be really humble and really repent of, like, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for the pastor to see it? Am I doing this for who to see it? Like, it's always that temptation is there, whether it's on social media or not. And you said something so important too, not just about entertainment, but with content. We might be talking about social media and you're talking about being genuine. It's always the temptation to be genuine. That is a kingdom principle. Even the disciples, like, who's going to be first? And, there's this want to be seen or known. And also the copying factor, where we can talk about it on social media, but that's one thing I used to teach even before social media came out, is an imitation is a limitation. It's like, if you are wanting to do things, you can't just watch what somebody else did. It's got to be genuine to who you are. And I was thinking about when you went through, your things is, I think some of us need a mission statement if we are going to do it. We're going to need some core values for the why of what are you going to put out there. Because if you're doing it because somebody else is doing it, they're successful, the views, there isn't a point. And our lives are about soul winning. It is about the change and giving people an experience. So I love what you said about all of that. Tell me a little bit about your background. I want to go back to your background, because we never even went there, of like your background, how we have a, like, when I say similar background, even to where you are now and what you're doing, is tell us a little bit about your background, what you were under the influence of back in the day when Jesus found you, and kind of take us to where we are right now.
100%. Can I work backwards?
Yes.
Because I wanted to say something to what you just said about having a personal mission statement or vision statement. If we take the scripture, and the scripture says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Right? So flip that. Flip it on its head. I heard Pastor Chris Durso say this, and I thought it was just brilliant. He said, where there is vision, the people flourish. Right. So if you want to flourish, if you want to be successful, if you want to be a person who does everything that God has placed in you, then get a vision. Right. Because God will give you vision. Right. God will give you wisdom. God will give you whatever it is that you need. And I think, even when I think about my own personal journey, my vision and my mission was very me-centered. So when I look at my life prior to where I'm at today and what people might see on social media now, a lot of what was happening in my life was driven by, there was two factors. There was the side that was pure, that I think God placed in me, the dreams and the goals and the vision and the exciting things that I wanted. But there was also this opposing force that was my brokenness, my unhealed trauma, the things that I had went through, me searching for affirmation because I felt so rejected as a kid. Like, there was so much on this side that was also driving me. So what I had in my life was these two drivers. And a little bit of history for me, I'm a faith guy, and I didn't even know that faith was at work in my life until I really had a revelation of what faith truly is. But at 18 years old, I'm a kid from Omaha, Nebraska. From the Midwest, from a town that many people don't even know about. Whenever they hear Omaha, they think of Peyton Manning. Like, they think of him shouting it out on a game, whatever. But for me, coming from Omaha, Nebraska, being this kid with this big vision, big dream, big goal of moving to Hollywood to pursue a career in dance and in TV and film. I wanted to be a professional dancer, but I also wanted to be an actor. So 18 years old, I say, I'm packing up all my stuff and I'm moving. I'm going to do it. And at 13 years old, I had that vision. At 13 years old, I felt like that's all I could see for my life. I had tunnel vision. Nothing else mattered. I was going around and doing stuff with dance as a professional hip hop and break dancer. And I was experiencing the world and culture and people. And I just was excited and inspired. And at the same time, I was impressionable. I was a kid that was dealing with brokenness, that didn't have language for it, that didn't understand it. So I had all these other influences in my life. While there were some positives, there were also a lot of negatives. So it's the convergence of both of these worlds where there is the purity of the dream, but there's also the temptation. And both of them are now feeding into, okay, I know I want to go to LA. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know that many people there. And the people that I did know that were there, they didn't show up for me the way I thought they were going to. So I had so many tough lessons to learn. But the one thing that I will say grounded me was the fact that I had this vision. You know what I mean? I had the vision. I had the dream. If I go after this, then my destiny will catch up to me. Like, at least that's what I thought, right? And little do I know, I moved to Hollywood. The first 3 years is me kind of discovering myself. I'm around all these different crowds. I kind of get into this circle that at the time there was an app called Vine. And Vine was blowing up and everybody was becoming like famous from making these 7-second videos. And this group of friends that I was around, they were like, hey, you need to make your own videos. You're in everybody else's videos. You're doing these dance videos, but you need to make your own. Write your scripts and start putting them out. At that time, Instagram launches video. And they did something that Vine wasn't doing. Vine was 7 seconds. Instagram was 30 seconds. So you had a lot more time and space to actually communicate an idea. So I started filming these videos and then traction. I start getting followers, even more than I had already had. It starts growing. I start getting brand deals, opportunities, and access. You know what I'm saying? I got access to all these things that this broken side of me feels like, oh, this is going to make me feel whole. This is going to fill that void in my heart. Oh, okay, I've got attention from beautiful women. Oh, I've got money at my fingertips. Oh, I've got influence. Oh, I can go to a place and because I have followers, they'll give me special treatment. Oh, I've got it all. And I just keep chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And the more that I got, the less fulfilled I was. I was empty. And although I was succeeding and things were happening in my life, there was still that brokenness that was driving me. And it wasn't until, to be honest with you, I had some really profound encounters with God. And I know I've shared a little bit of my story with you, and plenty of my story is online. You can find it. But it was literally like God just reached down into my life. And it was like, had I not gone with what was clearly God, I don't know where I would have ended up. I don't know what kind of destruction I would have led myself into, following, being enticed and pulled by my own desires. I needed God to give me new desires, to give me a new heart, to give me a new way of thinking, to change everything. And he did that. He did that. And this will be my 8th year of really walking with him, in covenant with him, which is really beautiful because 8 is new beginnings. And so in a way, I feel like this season of my life, and I know I'm saying a whole lot, but in a way, I've seen the faithfulness of God over the past 8 years. And I really feel like I'm walking into a new beginning. And it is the best decision that any person could ever make, is to say yes to him. Not just to go to church, not just to be religious and do the cute thing and post the Bible verses and try to behave better, but to truly give yourself to him, and to allow the king to be the king of your life, the king of your decisions, the king of your relationships, your businesses, whatever it is that you do. And then as a result of that, Michelle, what I've learned and what I'm learning is that he will show you how you also are a king and a priest. And if you get that, then you'll recognize, oh, I have an assignment. And I have to be relentless about this assignment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I said a whole lot, and I hope that somebody really got something from it. And I'm grateful, by the way, that I could share that. But yeah, I don't know if that took us down a different street or what you're thinking, but
No, there's no
you let me know.
Listen, we're on a navigation
We're
system
flowing.
right now. And so I think to myself too, when you talk about 8 years and, I think with dancers, performing artists, all of this, right, a creative is, I've when I say dealt with, I've worked with, I've dealt with, I've journeyed with, I've co-labored with creatives for, over 25 years. And I think it's some of the most unique section of people that the Lord is using in such powerful ways. But we also, there's this things we already talked about the one, when you're getting lured in this direction and the things that can fulfill us and the applause that can fulfill us and the lights and the stage and all the things. And so what I would ask is, so 8 years ago, what do you think is the biggest revelation you're walking in now? I know we talked about kings and priests and all of that, but even as a creative, that you would look back at old Ty and say, I can't believe I didn't know this back then, but how this has changed me from the core as a creative to who I am now.
Oh, yeah. It's actually a verse. And what's funny is I received this 8 years ago, and I'm just now starting to really grasp it because it has been my guiding light, my guiding force. And it's Matthew 6:33. If you seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then all of these things will be added unto you. So for me and to the person listening, what this means is if you seek first, so break that verse down. If you seek first, priority. If priority numero uno in your life becomes to seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, then all things will be added unto you. So now I'm going to help the person who right now you're like, okay, cool. I hear you. You're talking about seeking first the kingdom and his righteousness, but I don't even know what that means because that was me. I knew that something about that verse resonated deeply. But what I didn't know is you can't seek something that you don't understand. So if I want to seek the kingdom, I need to learn about the kingdom. I need to learn about the king. Okay, if Jesus is the King of Kings and he has a kingdom, and I preached a message, and it's the first message I've publicized from our youth ministry because we've been really particular about how we strategize things, but it was a Christmas message. And essentially the essence of it was the introduction of the king, the invitation to his kingdom, and your place in it. Right. Because that is the message, not just for a season, but for our lifetime, is that there's a king of kings. He has a very real present kingdom. And you, because you accept him, you believe in him, you've been grafted into this kingdom. And therefore, because you're a part of the kingdom, you have an assignment. Right. So for me, now looking back at those past 8 years, that verse has been guiding me this entire way. That verse guided me to my wife. That verse guided me to my current assignment in ministry. That verse guided me to Dallas when I was living in LA and was convinced I don't want to go anywhere but LA because this is my dream city. But I felt the voice of God. I felt the Spirit of God leading me. And it was undeniable. And because, step one, prioritizing the kingdom first, I kept feeling like the kingdom was calling me to Dallas. Right. And I couldn't deny it, and now having some equity with God, I'm like, okay, I trust you enough. I have enough of a track record with you to know that if you're calling me somewhere, even if it doesn't make any sense, I'm going to do it. Right. So that verse, I think, Michelle, is probably the number one verse that I could give to anybody when it comes to your walk with the Lord, because it will change everything. And I didn't even get into the second half of the verse, the righteousness or the adding all these things. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's where anybody that knows me knows that's one of my favorite verses ever. I didn't know that until now. Oh, yes. See? And because I think we get it wrong, especially with what the way we've been taught is assignment first. Like, give me what my role is in the kingdom. Give me the dream in my heart. Give me what my impact is supposed to be. And I remember when I started everything I did 25 years ago, there wasn't this like, I want to be something. I wanted him to be known. So whatever he was going to do with me, that's where I wanted to obey him in that. Yeah. So it wasn't assignment first. It was him first. And I think that's where that verse is so important, because especially I work with a lot of young people, not just young people, but that college age group, that 18 to 24, when you're like, marriage, where am I going to be? Where am I going to go? For and sure. That becomes our prayer request every day. Like, if we're going to journal it out before we are giving him thanksgiving and praise and seeking who he is and looking at his face first, and can sit there for an hour just looking at that, we're already down to our list. Yep. And the list
list is the assignment. And I think that's why that verse is so powerful, and especially as a creative, because we know we're, you're meant to do something. We always have this thing in us innately that's like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna show, we're gonna make him famous with sometimes
Which
I love
is so
that.
funny.
But it is a funny way to say it. But I
Yeah.
just think that that's why we have to, I think that's where I want to be careful in the space, whatever it is, whether it's on social, whether you have a platform or a stage, is we can't just teach people about the impact they're going to make. We have to teach them about the impact he has made. And then when we get under that influence and we are intoxicated by that, that's where it will. And those next right yeses come. It's kind of like that Billie Jean video with Michael Jackson.
Yep.
It's like you take one step and then it lights up, and then the next step. And I think everybody wants 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z. And when we moved here too, it was the same thing. I mean, we left Florida. I was there for 34 years. My kids were like 1 and 3, and everything I knew was there. Every opportunity was there. When God said move, there wasn't this like, well, tell me what's going to look like first. It was, are you going to say yes? And I mean, I remember pulling away with that huge semi, and my mom, I mean, there was just so many people in our lives, even our, just, I won't get into too much, but everybody was like, why are you leaving? This is everything you've known. God is moving here. And I was like, that's great. He's moving here, but if he's calling me there, that's where I'm going to go without, this is where you're going to go to church. These are the friends you're going to have. I mean, I had nothing of what we have here right now. Wow. There wasn't even a vision. It was honestly, I think it was so sweet of him just to kind of show me the blank space, the blank canvas, so that I had pure motive in doing that and just seeking him in that. But I think that is such an important verse. It is one of my favorites. So thank you for that. And I wrote down, just tell me about because I want to go back one more time and I want to get to know you even more before we wrap this up. But what is some lessons so you move here, we're in this new space. God is moving, you're working with youth, you're creating content, all these things. What's one of the hardest lessons you've learned in ministry, which we know ministry isn't just about a brand or a name. It's about every day, telling everybody about Jesus. But what do you think is one of the hardest lessons you've learned?
I think one of the hardest lessons that I've learned, it would have to be, I'm so grateful that I've learned this lesson, but it would be, you have to be very, very honest with your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. You have to be very honest, very vulnerable, very transparent with what you're going through. You can't keep everything in.
Right.
You can't expect to be strong for everybody and to be the person that everybody leans on and not have people or spaces that are pouring back into you. Absolutely. And so I think what happened for me the first year of living here, the first year was one of the hardest years probably of my life. This was literally 2024, so I'm not that far removed from it. But it was the first time in my life that I got still enough to address that I was depressed. And it wasn't like a feeling that I had never felt before. I just had never named it. I was never honest about it because I was taught, oh, you just sweep that under the rug. You just keep it pushing. You just toughen up and just keep on going. And that's how I was trained. But what I learned from that, and the reason why I say it's the hardest lesson is because the hardest part was just getting to the place where I was honest. I think we have this idea in our mind that if I'm honest, everything's going to fall apart. People are going to look at me differently. And see, even that, Michelle, like even that idea of like, oh, people are going to look at me differently. What are they going to think? It's like, well, you kind of are making them your God. Right. You're kind of making the fear of man a real thing in your life. You're more afraid of what they're going to think than what God's going to think. And I realized for myself, because I had already been on like this journey of really just readdressing, reprocessing like different things that happened in my childhood, and that had been its own journey. But I didn't really get to the point in which like I dealt with me. Like, okay, what's really going on with you, Ty? What's really happening in your heart? You are finding all of this affirmation in your environment and in the people you're around and in the industry and in ministry now and what you're doing in this. And I'm taking it away because I need you to see that that's not what affirms you. That's not what gives you the fulfillment that you need. What gives you the fulfillment and the affirmation that you need is that this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. And I needed to get to a place where I was honest, where I was honest about what I was feeling, what I was going through, where I was able to be weak in front of people. And I think that lesson, it saved my life Not only did it save my life, but I think what it also did was it prepared me
Right.
for what we're standing in now, because I had all the other things working. I knew how to flow. I knew how to, get into the spirit. I knew all that kind of stuff, and I was moving in that. I knew how to create content. I had all that. But what I didn't really have was a degree of inner health. And so even like whenever you hear me talk, or even if you read my posts on Instagram, there's a really intentional infusion of emotional intelligence and psychology and just language that I feel like is really important, because had I not had the language, I feel like I'd still be, scattered, trying to figure out what's going on with me. And finally, I think that verse made sense to me when it says that in our weaknesses, I boast all the more in my weaknesses, for in my weakness, his strength is made perfect. But if I'm strong all the time, I don't even give him a chance or an opportunity to be strong for me.
Right.
I'm praying and asking God to do something, but I won't even admit to him that I'm struggling. That's like having a broken arm and not going to the doctor.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, I'll just let it heal by itself. Yeah, your arm's going to be crooked for the rest of your life because you didn't fix it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that lesson, I think you got to get honest. Get honest with yourself. Get honest with your trusted circle, the people that God has put in your life. Somebody's got at least one person, and if you don't have one person, you can hire somebody.
That's right.
You could get you a therapist.
Yes.
I mean, I got my therapist. I see her every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, Michelle. Hey, all right, I'll call you up. How you doing?
Right.
How am I doing is the better way to
right.
to do it. So yeah.
That's good. I think about emotional IQ, and I'm so grateful that I had that, because I didn't have much else when I started all this, as far as like, it was the availability, and also me being vulnerable with him. And I heard once that the vulnerability is a measuring stick to greatness. It's like if you can be vulnerable, and I think even in ministry with me, when I was, trying to navigate my way as a leader, and speaking in front of people and all these things, and teaching, and you got an internship, as yes, there are some things that are meant for the appointment, or
For sure.
for those in your inner circle. But if you're trying to pretend, and that's where I think we get into the filtered life
Yes.
of, and it's like you got to take off the filter. And so I think when I started being able to share my testimony, that's when I saw some of the biggest, we call them altar calls, but it was like all of a sudden somebody was speaking their language. Somebody was able to talk and put words to what they were experiencing, whether it was depression for you, or anxiety for me, or panic disorders, or whatever it is. That's where I do think that is really key in being vulnerable and being honest, because
100%.
we don't have enough of it. So talk to them, because we're going to wrap up. So with the title, Under the Influence, and we've already talked about kind of where you came from, is if we've got one person watching this. We hope we have more than one person watching this. But what would your message be, like your life's mission, your core values? And I know you've already stated so much of that, but even prophetically, as we're closing up, to speak to somebody out there that's, just like, do I want to be vulnerable? Do I want to put my stuff out there, whether it's on content, or whether it's on a stage, or whether it's in a small Bible study? Numbers is not the name of the game for it all. Jesus took 12, he didn't take 1,200. So with that, what would you say to somebody out there, young or old, wanting to take a step to just be vulnerable, to put something out there for Jesus?
I would tell you to do what I just did first. It's just breathe. Just give yourself a moment. Take a moment, even as you're listening to this. Even before I say what I say next, I want you to breathe. I want you to feel your body. I want you to feel and invite the presence of God into this moment, because God is very present. And more often than not, we are so distracted that we're missing the very fact that the King is always present, that he's always available. He's never not available. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. So take a moment, breathe, and just embrace that the King is with you, that he's not judging you, that he's not looking down upon you, that he is not casting you to the wayside, but that he is very, very present. The Bible says he's a very present help in times of trouble. And maybe you're not in a troubling moment right now, but you might find yourself in one. And the piece of advice that I would give you is, I think it's going to be to get honest. You don't understand that, and maybe you do. We often don't understand the freedom that we're forfeiting because we won't get honest. There's freedom waiting on the other side of you expressing what's going on. There's freedom on the other side of you taking whatever's been bottled up inside and finally just saying it to somebody. Maybe it's you saying it in prayer. Maybe it's you actually opening up your mouth and saying and confessing to God, this is what I've been going through. He's not shocked. He's not caught off guard. We don't serve a high priest that can't be touched by our infirmities, but was tempted in every way. Meaning that Jesus knows exactly what you're feeling. He knows what you're going through. And he actually cares about what you're going through. So if you want to win, if you want to be successful, and we all do, because that's what the kingdom is. We should be people who are prosperous. We should be people who set a standard that's counterculture, that yes, we have influence. Yes, we have this prosperity. Yes, we have a blessed life, but we are better people. You see what I'm saying? So when I say better people, what I'm saying is you're a healthier person. This one step about being honest, I think that's the pathway to you getting to everything that God has for you. If the woman with the issue of blood wasn't honest, if she didn't expose herself in that moment to reach out and to grab, to take a hold of the hem of Jesus' garment, the very thing that was going to heal her and restore her and set her free, then she would have been in the back of the crowd regretting it when he walked away. She would have walked away with the same issue because she wasn't honest enough in that moment to reach for the healing that was available. And so my brother, my sister, wherever you're at on the journey, I want you today, as you close out this message, to take a moment and to get honest. Because any of the stuff that we're talking about, being an influencer, having a following, being a successful business owner, whatever it is that you want to do that God has placed in your heart, the only way you'll be able to do that and have longevity and be sustained is if you are healthy from the inside out. Healthy emotionally, healthy mentally, healthy spiritually, and I'll add in healthy physically. Did I already say physically? I might have already said it.
No.
You see what I'm saying? But I think that is it. That is, and I'll say this and I'll stop. But in the book of Isaiah, there's a prophecy about Jesus. And it says that he was wounded, he was whipped, he was broken for our wholeness. That's the verse that like when I read that translation, it might be New Living. It doesn't matter. To me, when I read that, when I study that word, he was broken for our wholeness. It speaks to the idea of the essence, the entirety of your being. That is you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Jesus cares that much about every single thing that makes you who you are. And if you can get that, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what happens outwardly. If you can get that, everything that comes in your life, whether it's success, whether it's moments of trouble, you'll have what you need because you're grounded.
Right.
Your foundation is firm. And you're more free. You know what I mean? So I hope that helps. I feel like it will, because I know that's what helped my life tremendously.
That's a good word, because freedom feels good.
Oh, yeah.
Freedom feels so good. And I think, too, something you said that was so important for some of you out there that might be dealing with the physical factor, because the physical you said last, but that's what's amazing is when you're healed spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and you confess, whether it's a sin or whether it's the honesty. I know for my life, I've had a lot of trauma carried in my body.
Yes.
That there's things that doctors couldn't figure out, and I was going to appointments and all these things, and until I was able to confess. And, like I said, sometimes it's a sin nature, but I was even one time going through something in my body for 21 months and no one could figure it out until I went and got help, and it was a deliverance, but it was also just counsel. And when they actually looked at me and said, you have a broken heart with the Lord. And I thought, is that even possible? But there was something that I was able to vocalize and be vulnerable about. And within, I think it was 3 weeks, something that no doctor could fix, no medicine could fix, no therapy. And I was getting physical type therapy. Nothing was working until I confessed and repented of my thought process and was able to vocalize it and be honest about things that were really dark to me. I really thought, when I started in ministry, I thought, I was going through some different things in my body or something would happen. And I was like, it's going to be like Job all the time. Like if I say yes to you, that you're going to put infliction on me because, I'll keep serving you. And it was like this mentality I had that I had to get honest about. And then physically, I became healed. And so I think too, for some of you out there that think it's, I think it is those steps that you will see wholeness, because sometimes we want to be healed, like heal my back or heal my neck or heal this, when we need wholeness, because wholeness will change us from the inside out. And I don't want to just be healed from something. I want to be whole.
Yes.
So, wow, that was amazing. I thank you again for coming and you being vulnerable and honest. And we're just praying that wherever you're listening or whatever caught you, that is something that will keep you. And so thank you for being here. And we give the Lord Jesus all the praise and honor for it.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.